Hi, I'm James from Epilog. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the more complicated procedures you can do on the laser, wood inlay. Now when you're doing a wood inlay, basically what you're doing is you're going to engrave away a pocket into a piece of wood and then cut out veneer pieces to glue into that wood. This can be relatively straightforward if you're doing a simple design like letters, but once you get into more complicated, intricate patterns, how do you get those small lines to actually fit into the wood perfectly? Well, we found a great procedure online, and we're going to show it to you. We're going to test it out with one of the most complicated designs we could find. It's got fine, intricate lines. We're going to see how it comes out. We're going to take a small wood cutting board, some veneer, and some aluminum tape. We'll show you how this works. Okay, so now we're at the laser. I'm going to go ahead and put my cutting board in the system. We'll just lay it in here. There's a little groove at the front that I can just hold it up against. It'll be nice and steady there. Make sure it's level. Let's close that door. And I'm just going to jog over the laser head and hit autofocus. Okay, we're all set up there. I'll hit reset to get that out of the way. Okay, we're going to start out in our design software. You can use any design software you want. We're just using CorelDRAW today, but Illustrator, anything will really work. You can see just how small and intricate the lines are here. These are all going to be inlaid into the wood. For this first step, what we're going to be doing is just very straightforwardly printing this to the laser for engraving onto the cutting board first to create that pocket. So I'll select the design, select print. Now you're just going to choose Epilog Engraver as your printer and print it. Now it comes over here, I can see with the camera where my design's laid out, so I can actually just bring this in, lay it out how I want. And I'm going to choose some settings. We're going to use a very high resolution. And the reason I'm going to do this is because those lines are just so small. I want to make sure that I get as much detail as possible with the engraving. I'm going to use 1200 DPI. This is a 30-watt laser, so I'm going to use about 50% speed, should be good, 100% power. And I'm going to set it to engrave from the bottom to the top so that we don't get as much debris from the engraving onto the wood as well. And I'll just click print, and we're good to go. Okay, so we've got the job over at the laser. We go ahead and pull this over here. Let's see. So it's going to be this one right up here. So it's all selected. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit trace. What this is going to do, get a little trace outline around the piece. You can't really see it from this angle, but I can check and see from the side the red dot pointer and see that it looks all lined up for where I'm going to want it. So hit trace again to stop that. And then I'm just going to start the job. Okay, now that it's done, I'm just going to pull up the camera a little bit so I can pull up the door. And we'll take a look at that. When I come in here, I can kind of feel and see how deep it is. I think we're pretty close to getting the full pocket depth that I want, but I'd like to do a second pass, just get a little more depth, probably not run at that same power as before. So we'll come back over here. I'll show you at the control panel how to do that. So all we're going to do is come back to our jobs, a long press on that. This is really handy. I can actually come in here, and down here I can say Okay, this ran at 50% speed, 100% power. Next time I want to run this one at, say, 75% speed, so a little bit faster. Now I'm just going to hit save. Now that's my new setting, and I can see that it's up there, so that makes it really easy to do. So I'll just come back over here now, shut the door. And I'll just hit go, and it'll start that second pass, the new settings. Okay, finished up that second pass. Now let's get that out of the way. Pocket's looking really good. One thing you can do if you want to double check your pocket depth, I can actually come in here with a caliper, lower that down, and see that, yeah, it's definitely deeper than the veneer that I've measured. I'm at 0.03, that was at 0.02. So I think that should be good to go. So we'll go ahead and take that out. Okay, now that that's all done, I'm just going to give this a quick wipe off, just try to get some of that excess varnish off of there, some of the wood buildup that you get when you're actually doing the engraving. You don't have to be perfect at this because you will be sanding it later, but that'll clean it up nicely. Okay, so the next step, what we're going to do, we have this ducting tape, really. It's a tape with aluminum on the back. And what this is for is we're going to use this to hold together our inlay before we actually apply it. The aluminum side can't be, the laser can't actually go all the way through aluminum. It'll mark it a little bit, but for the most part, CO2 laser just isn't a good frequency of laser to use with metal. So what we'll be doing is actually engraving away the veneer down to the metal. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of this tape, a little bit longer than my piece of veneer, lay that down. Actually, what I'm going to do, just make this a little bit easier, go ahead and peel off that tape, side of the tape. Now, if it's curling a lot, you can actually just use that one end, stick down the corner a little bit, help hold it down. Then I'll take my piece of veneer, I got that laying nice and flat. I'm just going to set it right on there. Press that down. Okay. Now I'll just trim those edges of the tape. Make it a little easier to work with. Finally, I'm just going to grab a nice heavy roller, mallet, and just roll that so it's as smooth as possible. So now we've got our sticky side of the tape against the veneer. When we put this in the laser, we're going to engrave away the wood veneer down to that tape layer. So all we're going to see is the metal through it. Okay, we're ready to get our veneer into the system. So I'm just going to lay this down in there. And you can see it's not very flat. It's going to move around. So we're going to want to secure that. What I like to do is some tape just to help secure it in place. I'll do at the tops and the bottom of it. We're going to be engraving ours right here, so I'm not as worried about that side. But to add a little bit of additional support to it, I'm going to use some magnets. Now the metallic table there was really great at allowing you to use magnets to hold your material flat, just to ensure that it's not going anywhere. Okay, we're back at the laser, at the computer actually. And what I'm going to do is come into my file that I've got a reverse image set up here. How I did this was I drew a box around the design. You just don't want this to be much overlap because you're actually going to be engraving away all this negative space. So let's come here, get a little bigger than that. I'm going to select it all, combine it, and then I'll go ahead and mirror it horizontally. That's going to allow me to fit it into the pocket. So I'll go ahead and select that graphic. I'm going to print that. Let's do selection only. So go to the engraver just with that. Comes over, place it on the page. And I'm going to set up my speed and power settings. Now, before we use 50 speed, 100% power, this one, I probably don't need to use quite as much power because I'm just going through the veneer. So I'm going to go ahead and use, well, let's say 70% speed, 100% power. Go a little bit faster. Still use that 1200 dpi to make sure we get all of the detail. I'll do it bottom up and print. Okay, back here at the laser, one thing I did not do before, very important, don't forget to do this, is I didn't focus it. So we did move from our thick cutting board to some veneer, so I want to make sure that that's focused. Now I'm just going to run my trace, just make sure that it's positioned okay still. Not going to hit any magnets or anything. Okay, that looks good. So I'll start the job. Now keep your eye as you start this out and see if you've gone all the way through. And it's looking like we did. I can see a nice, you can see the metal of the aluminum through there. So that means that we are going all the way through. There is some debris left over. That's pretty common when I've tested this out in the past. So what I'm going to be doing is running a second pass after this one just to clean it up. Make sure we've gotten rid of all of the sticky residue from the tape and any of the wood grain that's still in there. But you can see that what we're going to get is an inverse of our image. Okay, we can see that there is some wood debris left there, probably on the little bit of tape residue. So what I'm going to do, just run that a second time. So we've started up a second pass here. And what you're looking for is you want to see that really clean metal look. I don't want to see wood debris. Just make sure that you get rid of all that tape residue so it's not going to stick to areas of the cutting board when we try to peel it off. And it's looking really good. So we'll just let that run. Okay, so we've got the engraving done. Let's go ahead and lift that up. Look, looks really good. So I can just go ahead and remove that piece. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut off around the edges to get rid of that extra veneer. Just a little X-Acto knife will go right through this tape. Let's get a little stuck to our sticky mat. Okay, so get that up. We've got our reverse image there with the veneer on the tape. So we'll grab our original designed engraving. I'm just going to grab some wood glue. Any wood glue is fine. And put this pretty liberally over the entire piece, because we want to get it into all those nooks and crannies. Let's use a little foam brush here, get it in there. Seems to work really well. Just want to make sure that we've got it nice and covered. And I find that especially with these small pieces at the top, it's really important to get in there, because otherwise it can come off on the tape if you're not careful. So we want to make sure that we get a nice adhesive base underneath. So now we want to get all of that additional glue off the wood so that our sticker parts do not stick to that. So I'm just using some t-shirt material here. And I'll just dry that off a little bit. Now, for the real moment of truth, what we're going to do is just set this right on. We've got our deeper section, our thicker section with the D, so we're going to start with that. We're going to just feel around. Now, this is the difficult part, definitely. So, what you want to do, make sure you get that all nicely in there. And then start working your way out. What you want to see is it as flat as possible. If you're seeing that it's really rising up, you're probably not connecting up with the holes correctly. This is feeling pretty good though. I can feel it going right in there. Take your time. Make sure that you are actually getting it into the holes, because if you're not, all of this is for nothing. You want to double check very carefully, lift it up. We can see that it is nice and flat in there. I'm not going to lift too hard, because otherwise what could happen is you actually break off pieces of the wood before it gets glued in. That looks good. Perfect. Yes, so it's great. So now what we're going to do, we're going to give it a nice rubber roll just to make sure that's in there really tight. If you want to be extra secure, what you can do, just clamp on a piece of wood to make sure that that's going to be nice and secure. I'll just do a couple of those. Okay, now we're just going to let that sit overnight to dry. Okay, next day we're back. We've got our wood unclamped, And now it's the moment of truth. What we're going to do is just slowly peel this back, very cautious as you do. You don't want to pull up any of the wood inlay. Ah, this is looking great. It's really filling in the space nicely. Something really satisfying about this part of the process too. It's really filled in each of those little tiny details that we wanted to have. And I really haven't found another way that you can create an intricate inlay like this. This is really fantastic. Wow. And yes. And there we have it. Now all that's left to do is clean it up a little bit. We're going to go ahead and sand it and add a coating to it, and I think we're ready to go. Okay, next up, all we're going to do is add a little bit of a light sand over the top, just get on any of that extra glue and debris off. And our final step, we'll do a couple light coats of shellac just over the top. So here's that final project. Came out really, really great. From the smallest details all the way at the top there, you can see just how gorgeous that is. Now you've got a quick and easy way to be able to create a very complicated inlay. Hope you found this helpful. Join us again.